A false sense of security. Free speech does not give you the right to yell "fire" in a packed theater, as this would cause unnecessary panic and harm. Similarly, when it comes to crime, freedom does not give you the right to pose a clear and immediate danger to public safety or infringe upon the rights of others. Yet, as we look around at how crime is handled in our communities, we begin to see a troubling picture, one of a false sense of security. Walk into your local store, and you'll notice certain changes that reflect this shift in safety dynamics. Many items are now locked behind glass cases, even seemingly everyday essentials. High-priced goods, once freely accessible on shelves, are now positioned right in front of checkout counters where they can be more easily monitored. These changes reflect not just a rise in theft, but the shifting burden of prevention onto businesses and consumers alike, with store owners forced to take extra measures to guard against crime that is not being enforced. When residents turn to law enforcement for help, they are often left disappointed. Consider this. Call the sheriff about a homeless person walking down the street checking front doors to see if any are open, and you are being told there's nothing they can do. Similarly, report an illegally parked car, and you hear that there's no one available to respond. In another recent incident, a teenage girl walking to the bus stop at Forrestal and PV Drive South was approached by a male stranger. Fortunately, she managed to run away unharmed. The parents, understandably concerned, attempted to file a police report at the Lomita Sheriff Station and later even spoke to deputies patrolling Seaview, but were told no report was warranted. This kind of response leaves residents feeling vulnerable, as if their legitimate concerns and safety issues are being dismissed or deprioritized. This pattern is not new. Years ago, the Sheriff's Department identified a direct correlation between trailheads and vehicle crimes. Hikers often park their vehicles in isolated areas near trails, making them prime targets for break-ins. Yet, despite this awareness, it remains a persistent issue. One is left to wonder, where is the sheriff's plan to address these crimes? Why are these preventable offenses still happening in the same locations? The inaction gives the appearance that addressing certain crimes is no longer a priority. Much of this can be traced back to legislative changes like Proposition 47, which reclassified many non-violent felonies to misdemeanors, especially those involving theft under $950. As a result, crimes that were once treated more seriously are now considered minor offenses and not even recorded. Proposition 57 further complicates matters by not requiring officials not to consider prior convictions during sentencing. The cumulative effect of these propositions is that crimes often go unreported, and repeat offenders, who face little consequence, are free to continue committing offenses in the community. This lack of accountability feeds into the broader issue, a system that is failing to uphold its duty to protect public safety effectively. Law enforcement, bound by the constraints of new laws and limited resources, is often powerless to address recurring problems that erode community trust. Residents are left with the unsettling realization that the safeguards they rely on, both from law enforcement and from legal reforms, are not as strong or reliable as they once thought. This creates a sense of insecurity, where people believe that certain protections are in place, but are increasingly finding out they are not enforced in practice. The result is a growing disconnect between the rights and freedoms we are supposed to have and the actual ability to exercise those rights safely and confidently in our own communities. Early release under Proposition 57, passed in California in 2016, aimed to reduce the state's prison population by allowing nonviolent offenders to seek early parole after serving the main part of their sentence. However, the law's broad definition of nonviolent offenses includes serious crimes like domestic violence and some sexual offenses, raising concerns about public safety as these offenders may be released early. Additionally, many felonies are being pleaded down to misdemeanors, leading to shorter sentences and probation under Proposition 57 instead of prison time. This reduces the immediate consequences for criminal behavior and allows repeat offenders to avoid significant punishment, contributing to a cycle of recidivism. As a result, communities face recurring crimes from individuals released early or those who never served meaningful sentences, fostering frustration and insecurity. Proposition 57's intended reforms have, in practice, made it easier for offenders to return to the streets without proper accountability or rehabilitation. Masking the true crime rate, a community in the dark. While we are often reassured that our city enjoys a low crime rate, this narrative appears to be increasingly at odds with the visible signs of concern in the community. The city's budget for safety measures has steadily grown, including significant investments in technology such as license plate reading cameras, as well as the widespread installation of security systems by homeowners. Such steps suggest that, despite official claims, there is a pervasive fear of crime among residents. Parents, for instance, are hesitant to let their children walk to school, a telling sign that feelings of safety are dwindling. Widowed elderly in our community are living in fear that someone will enter their home. At the core of this dissonance lies the selective reporting of crime data. While public officials champion the idea of transparency, what they present to the public often only includes major crimes like murder, robbery, and aggravated assault. However, a significant portion of the daily incidents that shape residents' sense of safety, crimes such as simple assault, fraud, vandalism, and drug offenses, are conspicuously missing from official reports, as well as the unreported crimes that are not reported because of the sense that nothing will be done. This leaves the public with an incomplete picture of the true crime landscape. It's not just about what's happening, but about what's being left out. More concerning is the recent decision by the county sheriff to stop reporting details on major crimes altogether. This move further erodes public trust and fuels anxiety, as residents are left in the dark about the very crimes that affect their neighborhoods. As a result, people feel a growing sense of frustration and unease, unable to access the full information needed to gauge their own safety. Crime may indeed be occurring at a greater rate than reported, or the perception of danger might simply be heightened by the lack of transparency. Either way, the lack of detailed, honest crime reporting leaves citizens questioning whether the crime rate is truly as low as they are told, or if it's simply being masked by selective data releases. The result? A community where safety measures increase, but so does the feelings of vulnerability. Making a difference. Talking about issues in the community is important, but action is what drives real change. Here are 3 impactful things you can do as a citizen. Vote at all levels of government. Casting your vote is one of the most direct ways to influence change. Support candidates who prioritize the safety and well-being of the community, focusing on policies that protect citizens rather than coddling criminals. It's not enough for politicians to merely voice support for law enforcement. Their policies and voting records must reflect this. Support the repeal of Propositions 47 and 57. Proposition 47 reduces penalties for some nonviolent crimes, while Proposition 57 allowed earlier parole for nonviolent felons. These propositions have contributed to rising crime. Advocating for their repeal would restore stricter consequences for certain crimes, making the community safer. Vote for Proposition 36 in the November 2024 election. Proposition 36, which will appear on the 2024 ballot, focuses on reforming the 3 strikes law. Supporting this measure will be the first step in bringing balance to the criminal justice system, ensuring that repeat offenders face appropriate consequences.